Hi, Debbie Meckley here with Trust Your Vision Coaching. You know, we've been talking about that one thing, doing that thing that you want to do and what stops you, what gets in the way. I often talk about the critter brain and having a new relationship with that part of us so that everything changes in our lives. Because the truth is, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And if you shift one thing in your life, everything shifts. Your conversations, they become inspirational, delicious. Your career changes, sometimes literally. Your relationships shift in a good way. Your prosperity changes. I tell my clients who want to do 100%, and then when they don't get the 100% in, they feel like they've failed. They feel like, oh my God, I have to start over again. I tell my clients, if you did 1% a day, 1% toward that one thing, let's say it's your business. If you did 1% a day toward that business, that's 365% a year. That's over 300% more than doing 100% in a day. It just makes sense. So I talk about commitment. And it's interesting because the dictionary talks about commitment as sacrifice or giving something up. And it's funny because most of us have been taught in our life that in order to get somewhere, we have to sacrifice. And you have to give something up if you want to have something good. Or, God forbid, you have to feel bad in order to feel good. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So when I think of commitment, I think of sacrifice. And actually the word sacrifice means holding something sacred. Holding a sacred space for whatever that is that you're doing. I don't know about you, but commitment feels a lot better when I think about holding it in a sacred space and not negotiating anything when it comes to getting there. So having that commitment can be a lot easier if we also have some patience with it. I often see people wanting to go from A to Z right away. They get impatient. They don't want to do the work in between. They just want to come here and catapult over here. And it doesn't really make sense. And I'll tell you why. Because the gap that you're trying to avoid, that you're trying to move past, it's actually the juice. All the juicy stuff is right here in the gap. You have to live that stuff. All the great relationships are there. The conversations. Think about how much you would miss if you didn't have all this stuff in between getting from here to over here. It's a must. It's a must. And in fact, you can't avoid it. Because when you do catapult, and often people do, what they find is they find themselves backpedaling. You end up backpedaling back here, and instead of feeling grateful about that, you say, oh my God, I'm starting over again. I failed. Here I am at the beginning. You can look at that any way that you want, but the truth is, it's just telling you that you must go through the gap. And when you do that, that's where you find the juice. That's where you find the relationship, the delicious conversations, the things that inspire you, and the choices, right? Because you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be friends with everybody, but you do have to have the experiences and then make the choices and say, I'm moving toward that, and I'm moving away from that. And like we talked about before, once you decide that you can have this relationship over here with that big voice, that you're able to realize that there's a still small voice that really wants to talk with you in a really good way, a sweet way, the gentle way, the kind way, the way that brings you to your higher self. When you learn how to do that and you learn to be inside the commitment, inside the gap, big things happen. So remember, commitment. Hold that sacred. Whatever that thing is that you're working on doing, hold it sacred. No negotiations. Don't negotiate with anything that's not in alignment with you in that commitment because it's sacred. And remember that the juice is in the gap, so stay in the gap.